see these exercises as essentially a cover for Russian aggression. They see them as, the term they use is a Trojan horse. And we heard basically the idea being that they deploy these troops. Now, Russia says it's only 12,700 of them. And once they're deployed and they're mobilized in those positions, they don't withdraw later. That is the big fear, that they remain in place, and in place in a very sort of sensitive geographical position if you're a member of the NATO Western Alliance. Because as we know, these are drills. Zapad means west in Russian. They're on the western sector of Russia and its neighbors. So it's in the western military sector. It's in the Kaliningrad enclave, which is Russian territory really wedged just below the Baltic states there. And it's also in Belarus. It's not directly on the border with the Baltic states, with the territory. The exercises are withdrawn in sort of the central part of Belarus territory. But still, from NATO's perspective, it's dangerously close. And they're also going on sort of historical precedent. The last time these exercises were staged, 2013, they were overtly seen as preparations for what came next. And what came next was Russia's subsequent annexation of Crimea and also the subsequent intervention on behalf of the pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine. So the fear being this time that once again, it's not Crimea we're talking about, perhaps something else. Russia has invented fictional countries, one of them called Vyshnuria, which are supposedly the targets, are planning aggression against Russia, and that's what the exercises are aimed at, trying to contain. Vyshnuria, NATO fears, is just a proxy for countries such as the Baltic states or perhaps Poland.
So several reasons there why NATO is clearly uneasy about these military exercises. Talk us through, if you will, who's participating and the kind of military equipment we think might be deployed.
Yeah, and the "we think" is extremely important here because nothing's been confirmed and we don't really know, and that's a big issue here. Under the Vienna document, that convention, any exercises with more than 13,000 troops or 300 tanks, you are supposed to have military observers there watching, observing, able to speak to the soldiers, see the equipment moving, what's going on. When NATO staged exercises recently of 25,000 soldiers, it invited Russian observers to watch. You're supposed to do that. The number is interesting. The numbers are 12,700, and that's the official number Russia's given, and you'll note that that's below that 13,000 threshold. So officially, they don't actually have to invite observers. There are supposedly, Belarus has invited attachés to observe these exercises. People on Twitter are tweeting about them. So it's not like we know nothing, but we don't know precise numbers, which is why we have wildly divergent estimates, anywhere up to 100,000 troops. Some in the Western Alliance observers say could be deployed. We also have, though, the Baltic Fleet being used. We have heavy armor. We have airborne troops. We have something called the Spetsnaz, Russian elite reconnaissance forces, and electronic warfare specialists. So there's a lot of different teams being deployed in this operation, but we don't have specifics. And like I said, nothing's been confirmed.
So lots of different teams. Who's observing these drills, Doug?
Yeah, and this is the whole thing right now. As far as the observers are concerned on the ground, we would want to be able, or you would think that you would want to be able to go up to the soldiers and say, what is your objective? What are you doing in this military exercise? I just spoke about the heavy armor, the artillery, these Spetsnaz forces. Where are they being deployed? What are they doing? What are their objectives, right? I mentioned that the Russians have created, for the purposes of these war games, a fictional country, actually 3 fictional countries. One is the one I mentioned, Vyshnuria. There's 2 more. Vyshnuria is a Western-backed fictional country, right? And then there are 2 others, Lubienia and Vizbaria. They are 2 smaller countries that supposedly are supposed to be forming a coalition with Vyshnuria in a potential aggression against Russia. That's what they're targeting, but we don't know what the Russian forces deployed, who they're targeting, how they're looking at these countries. NATO would love to know that because, like I said, they think Vyshnuria is just a proxy for Poland, and the 2 other countries are proxies for a small Baltic state, perhaps like Estonia, Latvia, or Lithuania.
For the moment, they may remain imaginary foes. Doug, with analysis on Russia's military exercises. Thank you.